One of my favorite things to say on this channel, pledge complete. I've killed all the bosses in Dark Souls 3.
Except 2 DLC.
Welcome, classy crew, to my final Dark Souls journal. I'm pretty sure this is where it's going to end unless for some crazy reason one day I decide I want to do Dark Souls 2. But my pledge is complete, which was to kill all of the base bosses in Dark Souls 3, Nameless King being my final wall, which took me an extra stream to get to. But I've killed him, and I was curious enough with the game and not turned off by it to go through the DLC. And I killed 4 of the 6 bosses, but I've seen all the boss fights. And I finished the final boss fight, which is Slave Knight Gael, I think you pronounce it. And it was so good, like the best boss fight I've ever had in a Dark Souls game. I want to end it on that high note. And I'm going to talk about all the bosses, but I just want to share that's where we're at. So I'm moving on from Dark Souls 3. I don't know what the next pledge is going to be, but my Dark Souls 3 journey has come to an end. I'm going to recap the bosses, and I'm going to share my final impressions of Dark Souls 3 because they have changed. Not just Dark Souls 3, of Dark Souls in general, because I ended this game on a high note. I was a lot more comfortable with it. I actually was enjoying myself. So we're going to dissect all that. So let's get started with Nameless King. Last time I was stuck with him, but I was zeroing in on the strategy of taking out his Drake with the Greatsword and then coming in with the dual blades. It was just a matter of practice. Now, what I think was the final click was I discovered you can actually cancel when he charges his electric attack. And it was really his electric attacks, the second phase of his fight, which kind of threw me off. And it was honestly because I was just lacking practice against it. But through more practice, I discovered kind of by accident that when he's doing all of his lightning charges and attacks, like the big hammer, you just got to go behind him. And if you hit him enough time as he's charging, he goes into, he creates an opening, which allows you to do that much more damage on him, making the fight that much shorter. So I pretty much ended it at the beginning of a stream, and it was just so satisfying. The Nameless King, in my books, is just a good fight. At that point, it was probably one of my favorite fights in the game. I was not really frustrated with him. I was frustrated I had to fight his Drake all the time. But when it came to the fight with the Nameless King, it was super fun. And I just had a great time of just learning when to roll and when to hit him and not be so aggressive. Like, it was always that third attack. Sometimes he has 3 attacks. Sometimes he has 2. Being able to gauge if he's going to do the third attack or not was key to winning. Learning when to heal, that was another thing, because I had to be out of my head enough to be like, all right, now it's time to be aggressive. Now it's time to heal. And with the intensity of the Nameless King coming at you all the time, you don't have that much comfort zone to do that. But anyways, yeah, getting behind him, pretty much knocking him on his knees when he's charging his electro attack were the keys for me to defeat him. And after that, I was actually quite interested in learning more about what's left in the game. I remember throughout my journey, a lot of people were talking about the marriage quests, and I was like, actually, it wasn't because of the marriage quests. As you all see in my intro segment to the streams, there's this artwork that is done of me in some kind of Dark Souls armor, and I really wanted to end the DLC by being in that armor. I was like, where do you get this armor from? And everyone's like, oh, you have to go and finish the NPC quest line with, oh no, I forgot her name, but it's the lady you marry. And I say marry extremely liberal because marriage in Dark Souls, of course, is not a happy ending. So we do that quest line, and I learn at the end that by marriage, they mean shoving a sword through your bride's corpse's face. I don't understand how that has anything to do with marriage. I don't know if that was a marriage gone wrong. It seemed like everybody was happy with the outcome. But yeah, she was already dead, and I mutilated her face by putting a half-broken sword in it. But who cares? Because I got an awesome piece of armor out of it, and this is how I ended my journey. So it was nice, it's blue, I looked like a knight. Was there a cape to it? I don't remember if there's a little bit of a cape to it. There's a little bit of swagger to it. And then we went off into the painting, where it's all snowy and stuff, to go and fight the bosses. So I had already beaten the wolf boss last time. Now I made it all the way to Sister Frida, I believe is how you pronounce her name. And I didn't have much to say in terms of the exploration other than it's a beautiful landscape. The Sister Frida fight, I have heard tales of this fight. So here was my first fight with her. Actually went well. I went in, and I was a little bit cautious, and I actually killed her first phase, but I wasn't like overly confident because I knew there was a big guy in the room. I was like, there's probably a phase 2 where the big guy activates. So I used up half my flask, and just through a little bit of luck and talent, I guess, I managed to down her on my first try. So then, of course, the big dude, what's his name? Father Ariandel, he gets mad, I'm okay with him getting mad and being another boss, but then he revived Sister Frida, and I was like, oh no. And the way that they're presented looked exactly like the Smoo and Ornstein fight, and I'm just like, oh my god, I'm not ready for another fight like this. And there's no pillars in the room. How am I going to do this? So I'm panicking now, and this guy's just coming at me with this big fire, and the sister's just kind of like blasting me with ice. And at first I'm like, all right, I'll just avoid the big dude and I'll focus on her because I killed her once, I can do it again. Wasn't working so well. So then I realized, wait, the big dude might have more openings because he's slamming this big cauldron everywhere. So I started focusing on him and watching the sister's attacks, and I managed to kill that fight too. And I had brought it down. It was on my last flask. I was like very few HP away from dying, but I quickly like got my last slash in. Oh, and they shared the same health bar, which is great. And I thought for sure I had won, because never in the history of Dark Souls, in my experience, have they ever had a phase 3 bullshit. And this is the mountain of bullshit, the peak bullshit of all the bullshit that you can imagine. They have to put a phase 3 where she merges with the father. And I was so morally crushed and devastated at this. I'm like, no, just no, this isn't fair. And I held my own for a while, but I eventually succumbed. I had 1 amber, which I actually thought to use, which, hey, that's a testament of my growth. But I just got overpowered. Like this, that was on my first try, by the way. So I went again, and I wasn't so lucky the other times. This is a fight where you really have to learn Sister Freed's mechanic, because her mechanics are pretty much the same through all 3 phases. They just amp up a little bit, and I didn't have the patience for it. I'm like, look, I made it to phase 3. That's an accomplishment. I could invest a couple more hours into this and actually overcome it, but I don't see myself getting any satisfaction from it. Like, I was not enjoying the fight, first of all. I was just feeling overwhelmed the whole time. It wasn't like a Nameless King where I was like, I want to take you down. So I decided to leave that. I was on my last stream where I wanted to see all the DLC bosses. So I don't want to waste the stream on Sister Fried. We'll come back to it if we have time, maybe. So I moved on, and we went to the Ring City DLC. And this one was really cool to explore. Did not like the angels in this part. Otherwise, at first I was trying to kill everything and explore, and then I realized they're kind of like endless spawn enemies. And I was starting to get overwhelmed. So I was like, you know what? After a few deaths, we're doing the run strat. And I was just running through everything. I had a few haters in the chat who were like, oh my God, you just run through everything. And I'm like, yep, legit strategy. In Dark Souls, you can run. They encourage it, in fact. I beat the game at level 90. And apparently a lot of people in chat were sharing that when they were at the Ring City or at this DLC, they were at about level 120. Now that is par for the course in my experience. I am usually under-leveled in all games I play because my play style is usually a little bit faster than most people's play style. And I don't say that in a good or a bad way. It's just the fact that I tend to not grind as much. So I tend to be under-leveled. So I was at level 90 through the Ring City DLC. Take that as you will. I don't know if that's an accomplishment. So I made it to this part where there's like 2 angels, you're getting blasted, and then I'm like running on the woods. And it was kind of funny, but also so memorable that I was just, the more I ran, the more stuff I attracted. And there was a big dude, and then I was in a poison swamp, and I'm just like, oh, the bullshit cake is getting more layers. When do I hit a bonfire? And I was panicking and drinking, and then a pyromancer came after me, and angels are still bombing me. I was like, there is no way I will get through this. I was just like almost comically running just to see where it would take me. I'm kind of like frantically exploring as I'm running away from more and more mobs. And I stumbled upon a bonfire. So, hey, it worked. And then I was able to later on kind of explore more by killing what I needed to, and chat guiding me as to the areas of interest I should focus on. So after that, I fell into a pit, and here we were introduced to a demon in pain and a demon from below, which was quite intimidating to have two massive demons on you. I managed to kill both of them in my first try, and I was feeling like I was growing as a player in Dark Souls, where I'm like, oh, these fights, I'm starting to get the hang of them. I'm understanding how to take them down. But of course, they merge into the Demon Prince, and I was not ready for this. And right after a Sister Frida bullshit, I was like, oh, they're going to do this now. I despise multi-health bar like bosses. Like the Sister Fried business where, oh, here's the health bar, this is the boss. And then you adjust for that in your head of like, okay, well, if I'm doing this much damage, I'm healing this much, I must be doing good. And then like, nope, just kidding. Here's another health bar. And like, all right, now I gotta like, okay, let's redo this. Okay, I'm killing it. And then you die and you kill it and you're like, all right, I succeed. And then they're like, so Demon Prince was like that, but a little bit less bullshitty. But I was still a little morally crushed. So I was like, all right, going in, knowing that there's this. There's probably a phase 3 to this too. So what was the key to this one? I don't think there was much of a key other than learning the attacks. It was a lot easier when I could only focus on Demon Prince. So I think I was focusing on before that, managing the two demons was harder, but one is poison, one is fire. And I think killing the fire one is easier because the poison is slower. So once you knock out one, the other one's a bit easier. And I say that very liberally again, because you still have to time your rolls and stuff to dodge their attacks. So it's a matter of learning their attacks, rolling them, doing the damage, rinse and repeat, and they fall. So after that, I was greeted to another lovely assortment of bullshit by entering the ring city itself, where you are greeted by hundreds of undead archers who killed me many, many, many times. This was a little bit bullshitty until I realized, oh, there's a path to do this. You just have to time it where it's like, I'm behind this wall, they go away, I move forward. And then I eventually learned what the path is. So not too bullshitty. Very typical game design you see in games outside of Dark Souls. So I wandered my way through the city again, mostly dodging and running away from things to progress. Made it to... Actually, there was quite a bit of exploration. I met an NPC who I later learned was Patches. That was a very cool quest line because that was a callback to Dark Souls 1, and I actually didn't know it'd be Patches until he kicked me off the ledge. And when they did the setup, I was like, wait, this feels familiar. Where did I see this? And then I like remembered the Dark Souls 1 moment when you get kicked off a ledge. I killed Patches in Dark Souls 1. So to see him again, I was like, I will kill you again. But then people said he disappears and he's a friend after all. So I didn't end up killing him. But I kept exploring, found the secret way to, of course, we encountered Midir, Dark Eater Midir. And I found the optional fight of where he was. Felt really Monster Hunter. I feel like this is the most Monster Hunter fight with Dark Souls mechanics, which is you are the Dark Souls mechanics. The boss is Monster Hunter mechanics. And I was enjoying it for some moments when I realized he's just a massive damage sponge. Like I was chiseling away at his HP and it was not going fast. And he can pretty much kill me in 2 to 3 hits. So I was like, oh, this is a fight that's going to take me a long time. And he was an optional boss. I wasn't really having much fun with it. Again, not like Nameless King. I was mostly staying around him, like underneath him. I was able to dodge some of his attacks. I wasn't great at his tail swipes, but I'm like, okay, I could see myself getting better. And then there's probably a phase 2. And this is going to take me forever just because it takes so long just to knock his HP down. So I'm like, okay, this is a tower boss. I don't want to do this. Let's go see what the rest of the DLC is. So I eventually I almost forgot this boss. In fact, I forgot that it was even a boss. I had to look it up. I was like, what was the 6th DLC boss? But that was Half-Life, Spear of the Church. And this is more of a PvP fight. And I think people said, oh wait, this was a PvP fight. Yeah, this boss is taken from someone online, so it could be me. Like I could be this boss for someone else someday, I guess, somehow. So I don't know if it's fair to really judge it. I got it on my first try, but people said that the character I was fighting wasn't very good, so I don't really take much pride in that. Interesting choice to put a fight like a boss fight like that. I don't have much comment. I hate PvP in Dark Souls 3. All the fights I've had, a lot of them with a viewer named Nero, I feel like I'm doing my attacks, they don't register on the opponent, and then he smashes me with a greatsword, and I'm just like, How is this fun? I get that there's a certain input lag or something that you have to consider for, which I'm not aware of because the PvP combat is different than the PvE. I just don't like it. It's not satisfying because I'm clearly making contact in the game with you, but you're not taking damage. Why? That's not satisfying. So I really don't like PvP in Dark Souls 3, but I also haven't given it a fair shot. Just the little PvP that was introduced to me gives me no desire to go see what more of it is. Then finally, Slave Knight Gael, which is the final boss. I was ready for some heavy bullshit on this. Like, this was the fight that people had really drummed up as being like one of the best fights. And to me, a Dark Souls best fight means hard fight. It was hard. It was a hard fight, but I have never felt so, like, it was so fun. There was no bullshit. It felt like legit skill. Like, it was all about see his attack, dodge it, hit him, and I wasn't struggling that much. I died a lot of times to him, but at no point did I feel this is bullshit. I was expecting the phases, so there was phase 2 and 3. His health bar doesn't regrow, which that surprised me. I was like, really? We're gonna fight this final boss and you're not gonna give me 20 health bars to go through? And the more he amplified, he got more intense, but I was just like, oh no, all my training got me ready for this. Just gotta read him, dodge, and hit him. And it was the most simplistic aspect of Dark Souls in the best way. It's just you versus a fast-moving boss having the fast reflexes to dodge his attacks, and then when that right after the opening, you just hit him. And it was a dance. It was a beautiful dance, and I just loved it so much. I was on a high when I killed him. It didn't feel like luck. It felt like skill, and it was the perfect way to end this game. Story-wise, you know, I'm not that much into the Dark Souls lore, so I can't say if it was satisfying that way. But in terms of a fight, this is like a whole head and above the, I don't know, a head and shoulder. What is the expression? It was just really superior. Before that, Nameless King was one of my favorite fights. This surpassed Nameless King. It was really good. So now I'm going to be moving on so after that, of course, while I was out of time, but I'm like, I'm not going back to Sister Frida or Madeira after that fight. Those other two fights are just massive, like, damage sponge, and they're going to take me so long to do. I don't want to do them. So I'm okay leaving the Dark Souls series at this point. I know Dark Souls 2 is controversial. I might peek at it one day to understand it. I've heard a lot of bad things about it, but there's a lot of people who will defend it, saying it's not as bad as people say. But I hear it's very different. But I'm okay moving on to the next Soulsborns. You know, I've dabbled in Sekiro at this point. I've dabbled in Bloodborne. 2 experiences I'm eager to get into and I want to go through. And maybe now I'm actually feeling more and more comfortable with with the Dark Souls formula. Elden Ring might be up my alley too, because Dark Souls 3 with those twin blades felt just so good. I could see myself wanting to play that again. And if Elden Ring is as good as what it's setting up to be, I could like that, because I really like the speed of it. I'm not a fan of the great sword mechanic too much. And I genuinely did like exploring in the parts where there weren't like bullshit enemies, where I could take down enemies in 2-3 hits, and you know, they're not mobbing you necessarily, but you can pull 1 or 2 to you and you kind of whittle it down until you have the room to yourself and you explore. I actually like that. What I didn't like about Dark Souls is when I would get into areas that I would be overwhelmed. And I'm okay with areas that I get overwhelmed because I don't know better, and then come back to it and I find ways to whittle it down. But I felt, maybe it was just because I wasn't as mentally prepared, but I felt in Dark Souls 1, there was so many times where the game just punched you while you were down. And maybe it was just, it did it less than Dark Souls 3, or I knew better, or a combination of both. But I was able to appreciate Dark Souls 3 a lot more as a journey. The artwork was better. It was less dark, so I could see more. And the core mechanics shone through a lot more. And the bosses were they were fun. I had a good time with most of them. So I'm really happy I went through Dark Souls 3. I don't love Dark Souls the way I love Monster Hunter, but I like it. It was fun. So I'm happy that I can finally say I like Dark Souls. I never thought I would have said that. And it only took me 2 games and like 4 or 5 months. So here we are. Was it worth it? Could I have done something better? Probably. But at least now I can appreciate this franchise for what it is to some degree. And I'm proud and happy about that. So I'll be back with a new pledge. I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe we'll continue with Soulsborne. Maybe I'll jump over to another franchise. Keep an eye out on the channel for the next video. And until next time, Classic Crew, keep it classy.